was a cold, cloudy Sunday morning. The streets were still sleepy, the sky was bruised with gray, and the wind pushed dried leaves across the pavement like whispers of forgotten stories. On the corner of Marlowe Street stood an old, rusted iron fence enclosing a dull brick building. It was the Hollowdale Children's Home, and behind that fence stood a boy no older than 6, his oversized coat torn, his socks mismatched, and his eyes wide with longing. On the other side of the fence, just across the street, sat a man on a park bench. His name was Thomas Whitaker, a once celebrated architect who hadn't touched a blueprint in nearly 3 years. His world had shattered the day his wife and daughter were killed in a car accident. Since then, he had become a shadow of the man he once was, sleepless, aimless, surviving on vending machine coffee and guilt he wore like a second skin. He often sat in that park, facing the orphanage without realizing it. He said nothing to anyone. He watched the birds, the breeze, the falling leaves, anything that didn't speak or expect anything from him. But that morning was different. "Sir," came a voice. Soft, quivering. He turned slightly, not expecting to see anyone. Yet there he was, the boy behind the fence. Fingers clutched through the cold metal, knuckles white. His face was dirt-smudged, but his eyes held something Thomas hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. "Sir, could you pretend to be my daddy, just for one day?" the boy whispered. Thomas blinked. He looked around. Surely the boy wasn't talking to him. But he was. Just for one day. Today is family day here. Some of the kids, they get visitors. Some don't. Like me. I just want to know what it feels like. Thomas's throat tightened. 1,000 words rushed to his mind, but none reached his lips. His hands trembled, his heart thudded heavily beneath his worn-out coat. He could have walked away. He almost did. But then the boy smiled, not a big one, just a hopeful curl at the corner of his mouth, and Thomas felt something break open in him. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the memory of his daughter's tiny hand in his. Maybe it was just time. "What's your name, kid?" Thomas asked quietly. The boy's face lit up like sunrise over a snowy field. "Eli. I'm 6.5. But I tell the other kids I'm 7. Thomas nodded. "All right, Eli. I guess I can be your dad for today." And so it began. A volunteer named Miss Greta, her gray hair tied up in a bun and glasses slipping down her nose, met Thomas at the gate. She looked surprised but pleased. "We weren't expecting anyone for Eli." "You are." "Just a friend," Thomas replied, the word strange on his tongue. "Just a friend of his father's." Filling in. Eli grabbed Thomas's hand the moment they walked in, holding it like a lifeline. The boy introduced him to everyone with such excitement, it was as if he were parading a real celebrity. "This is my dad. He builds really big buildings and draws all day," he said proudly. Thomas didn't correct him. They spent the morning decorating cookies, playing board games, and even making a paper rocket. Thomas hadn't smiled in years, but Eli's energy was contagious. The boy laughed with his whole body, arms flailing, shoulders bouncing, eyes bright like stars trapped in a child's soul. Later, they sat under the old oak in the orphanage yard, Eli leaning on Thomas's side like he belonged there. Thomas looked down at the boy and asked, "Why me?" Eli shrugged. "You looked sad. Like you needed someone, too." That answer hit harder than any blow. Eli didn't know anything about Thomas's past. He didn't know about the empty nursery at Thomas's home, or the way Thomas still set out his daughter's favorite cereal every Sunday. And yet, in a single sentence, Eli had seen through the cracks and reached inside. As the day came to a close, Miss Greta came out and called the kids in for dinner. Eli's grip on Thomas's hand tightened. Do you have to go?" Thomas didn't know what to say. He wasn't prepared for goodbye. Can you come back?" Eli asked quickly. "Not forever. Just maybe next Sunday? Maybe we can build a rocket that really flies." Thomas nodded, slowly. "Yeah, kid. I'll come back." Eli threw his arms around him and hugged him tightly. "Thanks for being my daddy today," he whispered. Thomas left the orphanage that evening with trembling hands and wet eyes. He walked past the park bench but didn't sit. Something had shifted. The silence wasn't comforting anymore. It was loud now, screaming with things unsaid and things unfinished. The week passed slowly. Thomas tried to return to his old routine, solitary walks, coffee that tasted like cardboard, and evenings staring at old photographs. But something had changed. Everywhere he went, he heard Eli's voice. Saw the boy's smile in window reflections. He couldn't shake it. By Saturday night, Thomas was pacing his living room. His sketch pad lay open on the coffee table, untouched. He picked it up, almost by habit, and began to draw. Lines turned into beams, beams into walls, walls into a rocket. His first sketch in 3 years. On Sunday morning, he woke up early. He even shaved, bought a decent coat. And when he arrived at the orphanage with a small bag in his hand, he felt a nervousness in his chest he hadn't known since his wedding day. Eli was waiting by the gate, like he knew Thomas would come. "You came back," he shouted, running into his arms. Thomas lifted him with ease. "I brought something," Thomas said, pulling out a toy rocket made of wood and carefully painted. "This one won't fly to space, but I figured we could build dreams for now." Eli held it like it was made of gold. They spent another perfect day together. They built pillow forts, played chess with missing pieces, and shared stories. Thomas told Eli about the buildings he designed, and Eli told Thomas about a dream he had about a house where every orphan got their own room and a dad who never left. That night, as Thomas stood at the orphanage gate, preparing to leave again, Eli tugged on his sleeve. "Can I ask you something? But it's big." Thomas crouched down. "Shoot." Eli looked at his feet, then into Thomas's eyes. "Could you maybe be my real daddy? Not just for one day." Tom froze. The wind hushed, and Thomas felt something inside his chest break and heal at the same time. He knelt there, wordless. Then he cupped Eli's face. "I lost a little girl once. She would have been about your age now. I thought I didn't deserve to be a dad anymore. But you, Eli, you reminded me what it feels like to love again." Eli's eyes welled up. "So, does that mean yes?" Thomas hugged him tightly. "Yes, Eli. If you'll have me, I'd be honored to be your real dad." The process wasn't easy. Adoption papers took months. Background checks, court dates, therapy sessions. But Thomas never missed a Sunday. Each week, he brought a new sketch, Eli's dream house, complete with a rocket bed and a treehouse in the backyard. When the adoption was finalized 6 months later, the entire orphanage staff cried. Thomas stood at the gate, this time with no need to say goodbye. Eli ran out with his suitcase and toy rocket, and Thomas picked him up just as he had that first day. As they walked toward the car, Eli looked back at the orphanage. "Do you think she'd be proud of you?" he asked. "Who?" "Your little girl." Thomas's throat tightened. He looked up at the sky. "I think she sent you to me, Eli. I really do." They drove away, not into a perfect life, but into a real one, built with patience, laughter, healing, and love. Sometimes, healing doesn't come from forgetting the past, but from choosing to love again despite it. A whisper through the Finch changed 2 lives that day. One little boy who needed a father, and one broken man who didn't know he still had it in him to be one. Love finds us in the most unexpected moments, if we dare to listen.